Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to give everyone time to get on. I want you to go ahead and share Pastor Brandon because we are live.
We are live.
We are live. Well, while we're waiting for everyone to start jumping in, how have your week been, Pastor Brandon?
Great. Today has been great. This week has been great. I was a little under the weather earlier this week,
Okay.
but God is an amazing God.
Come on, come on. Well, I'm going to let you go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself as they see it or they'll watch the replay. And then we would jump into this amazing topic.
All right, everybody. This is Senior Pastor Brandon Day, whom I serve l- humbly at the God's Temple Holiness Church in Yanceyville, North Carolina. I want to give a shout out to all my church family, my biological family, my friends, enemies, all of you all. I appreciate you all. Please, 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 please share, like. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, please. This is a platform that has been a blessing not only to you all, but to us as well.
Yes.
uh prophetess and all other titles is doing an awesome job. But listen, we're about to jump into something that is very important and very imperative. I'm excited. Please, please, please like and share. So without further ado,
Mhm.
it's the one and only, the prophetess, the reverend, the teacher, the apostle, the one and only Latoya Paladi.
Oh, Lord, Jesus, Pastor Brandon, you guys, listen, if you, it's listen, just listen. So as Pastor Brandon said, I am Prophetess Latoya, and this is Bridging the Gap. And one thing I want you all to know about Bridging the Gap, if there's any topic that you all want us to discuss, then you send it in because this is not just my platform. This is not just our platform. This is your platform as well. So if there's any questions that you have, things that you see going on within the church that you want us to talk about, to dive deep in, please, please, please just send me a private message. You can put it in the comments so that we can make sure that we're able to get all the, so we can grow together. And so, hi, Miss Wanda. Miss Wanda's on. So, Pastor Brandon, when we're talking about separation by obedience, what does that entail?
That entails literally what it says backwards. As you are being obedient, you will become separated. It is a very touchy situation, a very touchy topic, because a lot of us sometimes feel as though as being obedient, we lose more than we gain.
Mhm.
It causes us to lose a lot more people that we are around. You begin to
Mhm.
see people for who they are, or I should say, see people for where they are, because it's not necessarily meaning they're a bad person, but the level that they're on at that moment is not conducive to where you're going. So to me, that's what it means. It literally means you will be separated by your obedience. The Bible says obedience is better than sacrifice.
Mhm.
However, through that obedience, greater will come upon your life. There are going to be some trials and tribulations. There's going to
Definitely.
be some tests.
Oh Lord.
But nevertheless, it will be to the benefit of you, and not only you, those around you, those that are assigned to you in your forthcoming.
And as you said, when you do obedience, there's always going to be a separation because in your obedience, you're going to grow higher. You're going to move to another place in God. And because of that, your circle, many people in your circle will not be able to move with you the way that you are moving in God and in what He's telling you to do. And when I think about it, I know last week we talked about Abraham, but look at Noah.
Yeah.
Look at Noah and what he had to go through with his separation in his obedience.
Mhm.
He just left with just him, his wife, his two sons, and his sons' wives. And that's how they restarted the world. And so, could you imagine the process? Let's talk about the process that
Mhm.
Noah had to go through and able to step into and move in the obedience that the Lord told him to.
I mean, just unpacking that story in general, it holds a lot because you're dealing with the fact of embarrassment. You're dealing with the fact of being scrutinized. You're dealing with the fact of repeating the same thing for 40 years.
Mm,
You're repeating the exact same thing over and over and over and over to people that feel like you ain't doing nothing but just run off at the mouth. Then you're being placed in a place of where you have to sit there and build something that you never seen, never had a blueprint, never been done before in your lifetime. So it kind of testifies to where a lot of us are in our lives now. We're doing things and repeating things and saying things that you know God told you. You not only become frustrated because of your humanity, but then you become frustrated with God at the same time. Like, okay, now look, now you've said this is going to happen, and I have yet seen it, but you're
mhm,
regularly still being obedient. And in that time span, you're dealing with not only that you have to stay confident in what God is saying, but you also have to win over your family to stay with you in this. So it's a lot within that story in itself that we can all relate to on so many levels.
And when you said that, when the Lord He didn't have any blueprint.
Hmm.
So not only that, we don't know how long. We don't know how many trees had grown and was planted. We don't know how long. So we look at the story of Noah and we said,
Hmm.
oh, well, God told him to build the ark, and he just built the ark, and then he just got inside.
Hmm.
But there was a process
Yeah,
because the timber had to get cut, the
yeah,
trees had to be cut down, they
yeah.
had to be um, painted. It's so much that he had to do just for the process of the
Hmm.
obedience. And I think
Hmm.
people don't understand that because the Lord tell you something in this season does
Yeah.
not mean that it's going to happen in the same season. The process that you have to go through. And that's why the separation gets to be so strong, because you find yourself, even when you're still struggling, trying to figure it out because there's no blueprint. And the Lord
Hmm.
would tell you, take you step by step. He said, I will be a
Hmm.
lamp upon your feet and a light upon your, I'll be a light upon your feet and a lamp upon your I will be a light upon your feet and a lamp upon your path. I was going to get it out. But
Yes.
that means, but if you look at it, you can only see step by step.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no matter, because we're so used to the street lights, we're so
Hmm.
used to the lights, the artificial lights that we can
Hmm.
see. But we have to remember, when this was written, they didn't have any street lights. So the lamp that they had upon their feet only allowed them to see the next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what the Lord is saying. I'm going to give you step by step, but in your obedience, you have to be obedient in step one
Hmm.
before you can get to step two. But
Hmm.
the process of it, because you are still losing people every step, but you don't see where the promise is unfolding. All you see is, I'm going in that direction. But wait, I done lost sister so and so, and I done lost brother so and I haven't even arrived to where you told me to go yet. But yet, so many have fallen away. How do you handle yourself when you are moving in the obedience while there's separation?
Let me clarify something too. It wasn't 40 years, it was 120 years. Excuse me for that. For all the Bible scholars, probably like, no, I want on 40 years. It was 120. I apologize. But how to you really have to know God and be able to really have your faith strong in Him.
Mm-hmm.
Too often while going through obedience and allowing God to lead you, a lot of us are afraid of the separation because a lot of times we become dependent on what we are connected to. And oftentimes God is causing us to be disconnected from things that we are familiar with in order for us to realize that there's much more. It's just like we as we that are gardeners or those that do plants. Yes, at a certain time that a plant has to be repotted. It
Mm-hmm.
has to be taken out of this normal, it was good for that season, for that time. But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't take a certain flower or a certain plant out of that particular pot, the roots begin to die because it's not able to spread. And so
Right.
therefore you have to replant it. And you must realize at that time, a lot of times if you're not careful and you
Mm-hmm.
don't handle the replanting properly, it will cause the plant to die.
You do more damage. That's right.
They do more damage. So therefore, God is trying to a lot of times is causing us to be replanted. And we have to be able to say, okay, God, let me not hold on when you're pulling me because something is going to
Mm,
rip. Something's going to get cause more damage. Let me just go ahead and let you do what you're doing and be
mm,
and get to a place like, okay, God, I this don't feel good. I don't know what's going on, but I'm gonna trust you because if
mm,
I can trust you to wake me up every morning, if I can
mm,
trust you to watch over me all night long, if I can trust you when I pray for you to handle something, you do it, then I know this is going to be okay. And the thing
mm.
is, we have to understand that a lot of times where we are going, everybody's not ready to go there because there
Right.
are people that are waiting on you in a certain season. And because you are being held up, you're holding them back. So
Yeah.
understanding that and realizing that, okay, look, I'm being obedient, God, I'm being separated. This does not feel good. This does not look good. I don't know what's going on. But if you say this is what has to happen, all of it's going to be on you. The problem with us is we trying to put on the guilt and all that stuff on us. But you got to realize you're just following what he says. So if it
Right.
don't work out, it's on him. But the thing is, it always works out.
It always works out.
It
Yeah.
always works out because
Mm-hmm.
if you look at his track record, what he's done in your life, those jobs that you thought that you was not going to make it without it, God separated you from it, and now you're
Yes.
doing better than what you did before.
Yes. Yes. And so for you, for everyone who's coming on today, we're talking about separation by obedience. And so I wanted to give a couple of shout outs. So hello, Miss Wanda, Miss Sandra, Miss Ann, Miss Anthony, and Miss Samantha. Thank you all for being on. And and for those who I see you popping on, but you haven't put anything in the comments, I'm waiting for you to put a something in the comments, and I will call you out because when we are talking, Pastor Brandon, about the separation. The separating of something is very hard. It
Hmm.
is so hard that it takes you to have a mental mindset to
Hmm.
say, if I have to walk away from this person, if I have to walk away from this thing, God, you're going to have to prepare me because of what's going to be associated. See, when we read the stories in the Bible about the mighty men and women, we don't take time to stop and say, how do they feel?
Yeah.
Because even though Noah obeyed what the Lord said, I'm pretty sure in that 120 years, how many friends did he have? How many
Yeah.
people did he know? How many
Yeah.
people did he sit around the table and eat with? And he
Hmm.
had to get into the ark and hear them crying out and not be
Hmm.
able to do anything.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that the separation it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Whenever one of my dream is to be able to get on a hot air balloon,
Hmm.
and I'm afraid of heights, but I want to get on a hot air balloon ride because I just think it's just so beautiful,
Yeah.
and every place that I've watched, but every time I see it, I notice that they have to drop a sandbag off the side so that to lessen the weight so that it could float. And
Hmm.
many of us, we are stuck in our place because we haven't allowed the weight to be released
That's
so that we
good.
can go to the next level of what
Yeah.
God is calling us to go to. And then we get frustrated, irritated. We become bitter because why haven't I made it to that place that God has shown me, but
Hmm.
none of the weight has been released. And I'm not
Hmm.
saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a weight like someone trying to hold you down, but
Hmm.
they're keeping you from accelerating into your purpose. And Pastor Brandon, when we are talking about, and even when we look at and me and Apostle Sharon was talking about this earlier today, even a baby
Yeah.
in obedience as a mother, the doctor is going to tell you when to push. And each time that you push, there's pain that's associated with it. It seems like there's a ripping that's happening. There's so much pressure and pain to get the promise out. But what if you never separate the baby by the umbilical cord? What
Mm.
if you have the baby and you just refuse to do the separation of the
Hmm.
umbilical cord? that can cause both the mother and the baby to die. And so separation, even though it's hard, is needed, because every woman that I've seen, they cry, they scream, they're hurting. But as soon as the baby come out, they're laughing in the tears because I can hold my promise. I can hold what I've been carrying for 9 months where I couldn't sleep, I couldn't rest, I was exhausted, but it was worth it. Why, Pastor Brandon, is it important for us to understand that the separation is not to kill us, but to help us survive?
Oh, because the separation reveals what's in you that God needs to fix.
Mm-hmm. Come on.
Because a lot of times, what we have issues with, we don't realize there are issues until the cover is snatched off of it.
Come on,
Think
that's
about
good.
it. If you have abandonment issues and you always keeping people around you, you never have to deal with that abandonment. But
Right.
once people start walking away, once you start separating, it comes in your face. And no matter
Mm-hmm.
how much you try to get people to be a cover for it, it's still there. So the separation allows you to realize, okay, I need to handle this. I need to deal with this. And so a
Right.
lot of times God is trying to tell us and teach us that, listen, I need you to pull away from this because there's some things there that you're allowing people to cover up that I need to heal so you can be able to stand on your own. We
Yeah.
use a lot of times other people and other things. Now, I mean, just not use people, but other things, other facets of life to try
Mm-hmm.
to are used as a crutch to manipulate what we feel, what we can handle. And what happens with that, when you don't allow separation to happen, you begin to causing cancer to happen on the inside of you, spiritual
Come on.
cancer. You begin to die inwardly and become to a place to where the things that you've been trying to cover up begins to fester, begins to build, it
Mm-hmm.
begins to have an issue. And then you find yourself at a place then you become bitter. You think you are right. You're not understanding why this is happening. But then you got to realize it takes separating things in order
Mm-hmm.
for to live. Your whole analogy about the birthing process it speaks volumes because it
Mm-hmm.
has to be a disconnect in order to reconnect. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
just happens. That's just how it is.
Right. And when we're talking about that disconnect to reconnect, see, many
Mhm,
people don't understand that within the separation, it does not mean that you put the old pieces back together. There has to be a season where you say, I understand that this separation must happen.
mhm,
There's no hatred, there's no anger.
mhm,
I forgive you for whatever
mhm,
caused the separation,
mhm,
but we
mhm.
have to move on. But many times people are trying to reconnect the thing that the Lord told them to separate from. And then
Yeah.
they wonder, why am I in this place? Why am I still struggling? Why am I still in heartache? Why am I
Yep.
still in pain? Because
Yes.
there's now because anything that is not supposed to fit together and you try to make it fit together, it's going
Mhm,
to cause pain. It's going to cause issues. It's going to cause irritation and inflammation. But when you understand that in the separation, we both grow. And
mhm,
guess what? There will be a period where we may come back together. And in the growing and the separating, I remember when I was in not Afghanistan, when I was in Ghana, and I had a vision of the separation of people that I thought I would never separate from. But the Lord showed me, listen, you guys are walking the same path, but it's just not a path together. And I
mhm,
need you to be okay with walking the same path, walking side by side on the same path, but not walking together. Because there's
mhm,
some growing that I have to do on this side and some growing I
mhm,
have to do on that side. And
mhm,
eventually the path is going to veer back together. And when
mhm.
that time comes, I will make sure that both of you are ready for it. But if we hold on, sometimes the Lord will have to snatch it away from us because
Mhm.
we are not in a place. I remember in the Bible, the Lord in I think it was in Exodus when he was talking to Moses. He said, "Listen, Moses, I need you to tell the priest to go when he gets into the promised land. I need him to scrape the leprosy off the wall." And when he scraped the thing that's growing, that's festering, that's causing, which is probably mold, I need him to scrape that off the walls and take it out of the camp. And see, that separation, you might wonder, well, why? You gave us the promised land. Why in the promised land, the place that you gave me, is something that's growing that has to be scraped out? And that's how we are. There are things on the inside of us that has to be scraped out, and it has to be
Mhm.
removed from the camp. Because if not, if you allow residue to fall off while you're scraping and you don't sweep
Mhm.
it up, it could still fester into something else.
Mhm.
And that's why we
Mhm.
have so many people, Pastor Brandon, walking around in anger, in bitterness, in looking back, in rejection, because they have not allowed the walls to be scraped and it taken outside of the camp. They want to hold it. They want to safe keep it. They want to protect
Mhm.
it. They want to look at it, because many people, honestly, they've been going through so much bad in our lives that they don't even understand that who am I without the bad? I don't
Mhm.
know who I am without this without always being woe is me. Who am I going to be when I stand on my own 2 feet and they are afraid? I am afraid to step into what God is calling me because I don't know who I am. So let's
Yeah.
talk about why it's important not only to have the walls scraped and the things removed, but for us to understand who we are in God.
I can really attest to that because I've been in that position so many times.
Mhm.
Even though many people might see me and I'm like, oh, he's so strong in Lord. It ain't always been like this. I'm still growing. Um, I remember I remember when I was in college, the chaplain there. Every time I would see him, he would say, "Hey, how you doing, man?" I'm like, "Man, this going on, this going on, and this going on, this going on." And so one day I went and I saw him, and he said, "How you doing?" And the first thing came out of my mouth was something negative. He said, "You know what? You really know how to make lemons out of lemonade," and walked off.
Mm.
And it did not dawn on me what he said until like 10 minutes later. I was like, "That's not good." Because I had gotten so used to something always happening to me. I was got so used to all the bad happening because I made it a literally a cloth, a cloak that I can wear. Like I was good in this life. This is just, I'm used to this is always happening to me. It's just my life. I'm always getting a bad deal and things of this nature. But I
Mhm.
had to come out of that and realize, no, this is not who you are. This may be something that you're dealing with, but
Mhm.
this is not who you are. And it's important that you come to that realization, as the prodigal son said, come to yourself
Right.
and realize, no, this I don't have to keep going through this. I don't have to keep speaking these things. I don't have to keep going through it because when you realize who you are in God,
Mhm.
you realize the standard you are in God. And you
Mhm.
realize what you allow to happen to you and what you won't allow to you. You are a royal priesthood. And
Mhm.
I've never seen a king come down to be among people that was not on his level. Even
Mhm.
when he walked among his people of his kingdom, he was either on a horse or if he walked through, he had guards around to keep everybody at a distance because you don't come but so close to the king. And what I
Right.
realized is when you allow things to come so close in your presence, it
Mhm.
starts altering your presence. It starts
Mhm.
altering your perception of who you are. So you have to learn to allow God and other things to be scraped out of your mind, out of your heart, out of your spirit, out of your eyesight, so you can be able to see yourself as God sees you. And it's very vital that you do that because that would determine how high you go. That would determine how much power you allow yourself to be released and how
Right.
your faith will grow. Because, yes, dirt is a bad thing, but you can grow in dirt. But at the same time, that same dirt you grow in, it can also be the dirt that bury you. So you
Mhm.
have to realize, okay, am I going to use this as fertilizer or am I going to use this as my grave?
Right. And I think many people get it confused. When the
Mhm.
dirt is thrown, they don't understand how to maneuver in the dirt. They don't understand how. Do I just pack it down so that I can
Mhm.
rise to the next level? See, when you learn how to shake that dirt off, I think it was
Mhm.
something I saw on TikTok or something, where the animal, whenever they threw dirt, he would shake it off and then he would stomp on it. And
Oh,
before
yeah.
long, the hole that he was in, he ended up coming out of it. Why? Because the dirt that was thrown on me, and because I allowed it to shake off and I
Mhm,
stood upon it, it allowed me to elevate to the next place, to be able to get
mhm,
out of the
mhm,
place that I'm in.
mhm.
And see, many times we don't want to shake the dirt off. We want to just be buried in it because oh, woe is me. I'm
Mhm.
going through. I don't know how to handle it. But when we shake it off, and Pastor Scott just put, that's the reason why it's important to separate without falling out, because
That's it.
there's going to be a season
That's
that
it.
we're going to have to come back. So just
That's
because
it.
you threw the dirt on me, and I could be mad, and I could look at every reason why in my mind that you was trying to kill me, that you was
Mhm,
trying to bury me. But if I
mhm,
have a mindset change and I say, thank you for throwing the dirt on me, because
mhm.
in my shaking it off, it caused me to move. That gave me a movement. And in my movement, I was able to now elevate to a higher place than I was before. So
Mhm.
your dirt was probably, and it probably was meant to kill us. It probably was meant to cover
Yeah,
us, to keep us out. But if we know how to maneuver the right way, if we
that's it.
know how to move the right way,
Mhm,
then the dirt that has been thrown on us, it will slide off of us. Now, there's
mhm.
always, no matter what, if you look at dirt, or if you've been in dirt, or if you played in dirt, most children nowadays don't understand how to play in dirt. They don't know anything about making mud pies because they are playing games. But with
Right.
any type of dirt, even if you shake it off, there's still a little residue of
Yes.
that dirt that's clinging to your hands. And see, we as Christians have to understand how to get to the water to wash off the residue. See,
That's it.
whenever there's dirt and you can't just shake it off and you can't hit your hand, you always have to go to the spigot, and you always have to allow
Mhm,
the water that runs out to wash the dirt off, to wash the oil, whatever it is, off. But we fail to go to the living water.
mhm.
And that's how we are now in a place, because the living water will purify us. It will allow us to become clean. And in getting into Jesus and understanding, Lord, this is what I'm dealing with. See, many
Mhm,
people don't want to be honest. In the
mhm.
separation of obedience, they don't understand how to just go before the Lord and say, Lord, this
Yeah,
hurts.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jesus, the tears that I'm crying, and I don't know how to do it, but I know that if you called me to do this, that there's a blessing on the other side. I
Mhm,
understand that I have to go through this wilderness place before I can get to my promised land. So, Lord,
mhm,
I just need you to help me every step of the way. See, when we learn how to be just unmasked before the Lord, when we learn how to say, God, I'm going to do what you said do, but I'm hurting.
mhm, mhm,
There was an assignment that the Lord gave me, and I said, Lord, I'm going to do it. But I just want to put a disclaimer out that I don't like your people. Like
mhm.
they're not the nicest people to deal with. But I'm going to move in what you're calling me to move in,
Mhm.
because that's the obedience that I walk in. But I
Yeah.
want you to know that it's not going to be easy. It's going to be painful. I'm going to shed some tears. But guess what? I have made up in my mind that I'm going to do what you say do, and no matter how it hurts. But in the growth that comes, like when you're going through it, whatever you're working out, you don't realize the transition, the change that goes
Mhm,
through. You know the pain and you know where you were in the starting point. But then when you start working out and eating right and doing all the things, there's going to be a time that you're going to walk by the mirror and you're going to stop and back up, because you realize, wait, I didn't know that my arms was this defined. Wait,
mhm.
listen, I didn't know my stomach was this defined, because I have been working out, but it's not going to happen overnight. So, Pastor
Yeah.
Brandon, why is it important that we talk about, how do we deal with the pain of the separation? Because what are some of the emotional struggles that people will face when obeying God lead to separate?
Anxiety, abandonment, um, feeling worthless,
Mm-hmm.
feeling that you're not able to do it. You'll start feeling what the mental thing was your fault. The reason this is happening. Did I
Mm-hmm.
really hear God? Was this really God? Well, maybe if I just go back and maybe if I can just apologize, and maybe if I can just hold on to him a little while longer, and maybe God, you start negotiating with God. Like, God, well, God, listen, I know that you said this, but listen, they really need my help, and you go through so many different vast facets of what's going on. You go from a mental to emotional, from
Yeah,
emotional to mental, from mental to physical, from physical. You go through depression. You go through so many different things.
right.
But the thing that I realize is Jesus did the same thing as he was preparing to go to the cross.
Mm-hmm.
He went through those same emotions.
Yeah,
It had to come to a place that he had to die. He says, listen, Father, if it's your will
yeah.
to let this cup pass, please let it pass. But not my will.
Nevertheless.
Let your will be done. And
Mm-hmm.
when he did it, the Bible says the angels came and they strengthened him. A lot of times, the way to really get through this, you have to accept that's how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge it, accept it, and release it. The
Mm-hmm.
thing is, the road to maturity is not easy,
It's not easy.
but it's worth it. The process hurt, but the promise has worth. I promise you that. So
And
once
go ahead.
so once we really get to the acknowledgement that, hey, this is how I feel, God. Listen, like you said, I'm gonna obey you, but I'm gonna tell you right now, this is hurting. You
Mm-hmm.
have to really help me to get through this. You have to give me that peace that you said that would surpass all understanding, because I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand nothing right now. I need
Mm-hmm.
that peace. So that's
Right.
something you got. You have to be honest with God about. I don't understand what you doing, and I don't like
Right.
it. So that piece you said right here, I need you to
Mm-hmm.
do that right there,
Mm-hmm.
real fast.
And even, but let's look at Jesus in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
He went back to the disciples. Can you not pray with me for an hour? I just need you to pray with me. And see, people don't understand if you really look at how the garden was and how he left the
Mm-hmm.
disciples, it's the same way as the tabernacle.
Yeah. Yep.
You had the outer courts and you had the inner court and you had the holies, the most holy place and the holies of holies. And he
Mm-hmm.
went in and he understood, I'm not worried about the cross. The
Mm-hmm.
cross is not important to me. I'm not worried about this flesh because I know who I am in this flesh. I'm not this flesh, but I need this flesh to be able to do what you need me to do in the obedience. But God, the separation is not with the people that I walk with 3.5 years. The separation is with you.
Yep.
Father, I have to now take on the sin of the world, the sin of people that haven't even been born yet, the sin of
Mm-hmm.
people that will probably never call your name, the sin of people who would never allow me to be thy Lord and Savior. I have to take on their sin. And because your word is true and you're not a son of man that you should lie, so you said in your word that you can't look upon sin.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I am, this big old ball of sin, taking it to the cross so that you can reconnect with those that don't even know you
Mm-hmm.
yet. But yet
Yeah.
I've known you all my life before the creation of the world. I knew you, but I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
have to separate from you because the separation is by obedience. The obedience of me coming into this earth and having a mission and a
Yeah.
purpose for to
Yeah.
do. But I have to now let you know, Father, if you will let this cup pass from me, do we really have to separate? Do I have to go through this with a period of being without you, a period of not being able to pray, not being able to hear
Mm-hmm.
you, to feel your presence? So there has to be a time that I have to separate from you, Father. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
worried about how they beat me because I understand that even when they beat me, they said they whipped him all night long. And he said not a mumbling word. He didn't say one word. Why? Because this flesh, yes, it's painful. Yes, what they did to me was painful. But what hurts more is the separation from you, Father.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through this process and they're going to rip some stuff from me and they're going to they're going to beat me down. But I understand that if I follow your guidance and I do what you have called me to do, there will be a reconnection. I will be reconnected from you. So give me the strength now to go through the separation. And that's why the angels had to come minister to them. They had to come up and say, listen, Jesus, you know this is only for a a period of time.
Yeah.
We just need you to be strong. We understand how
Mm-hmm.
we see the tears, and we know that you could just call us and we would take care of everything. But I need you to hold. I need you to be strong. I need you, as our team says, I need you to hold the line, because you are going to do in your obedience so much more is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
he got to the cross, even there, Father, why have you forsaken me?
Mm-hmm.
Why
Mm-hmm.
have you did this to me?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to keep going through it, because I know the end state. And
Mm-hmm.
see, that's what we have to understand, and that's what we need to do, Pastor Brendan. Through the emotions that's going to come, the tears that's going to fall, the anger, the depression, the things that's going to happen. Through it all, I know that my end state is this.
Yeah.
Lord, you told me that this is what I'm going to end up at. This is my promised land.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now let me back up and prepare myself to go through the wilderness.
That's it.
And so when we are going through that, and Pastor Brandon, just even sitting here thinking about what Jesus did for us, I could not imagine having to separate when my child needed me the most. I couldn't even look at her for someone else. She's going through the pain and the turmoil and the
Mm-hmm.
beatings and the being nailed to the cross for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't do
Mm-hmm.
anything to help her.
Can't do nothing about it. Can't do nothing about it. I mean, if you just think about those times when you saw someone that you loved, whether it been a friend, whatever it was,
Right.
and they're going through something that you cannot help them with. You can't do nothing. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, it's not easing the pain. It's not, you're helpless. That's the point when you really found out what that word means. Helpless.
God. That just takes
But
me back
to,
to Sunday, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, no, you fine. You're fine.
Yeah, I said no, I said that just took me back to Sunday, to what
Uh,
that transition and being there watching that. It was like, what do I do? Just
yeah,
stand there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Stand there. Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to, and that's what maturity comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes God will tell you, no, do not help. This is between me and them.
Right.
But in the midst of you watching, in the midst of you, and this is what I want people to really understand from this whole topic. The separation is not always just because for you, it's for the other person as well.
Right.
Because sometimes there are those that they, as much as you depend on them, they depend on you.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you are around, they will never really mature or grow. They will really never have a relationship with God as they need. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes God will have to literally allow things to happen to cause a separation. There's a separation called voluntary separation, then there's one that's called involuntary. To the point to where God will say, okay, y'all do this, you be obedient, you separate. But then there
Mm-hmm.
are times when he literally has to force a separation in order for both persons to say, look, I really can't do this without the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And too many times we are become so codependent on one another that they have become our gods. And the Bible says that I have
Mm-hmm.
no other God before me. And we have made idols with our friends,
Mm-hmm.
idols with TikTok, idols with Facebook, because we
Mm-hmm.
gotta have the lights, we gotta have something to keep us distracted. We have made church an idol.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
We've made our pastors idols. We've made our counselors, our friends, our family, our pet. We've made all of these things idols because they look up to us and we look to them.
Mm-hmm.
When the truth of the matter is, God said, I gotta kill all of this because you are now putting something in my place. I gotta separate you from it so you can be recalibrate yourself and say, no, no, no. God, you're the only one that is able to do these things. And when you learn to do that, then you can be, as the scripture says, that I now press towards the mark. Putting
Mm.
my past behind me. I'm pressing towards the mark because I understand now I'm refocused now. I understand what's more important. So
Mm-hmm.
when the separation, look at it as in the terms of you getting reprioritizing your life, getting things back in order as they should be. Keep the main thing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and stop putting minor things as the main thing.
Mm-hmm. And you know, Pastor Brandon, when we started off, we was talking about Abraham. And when the Lord told Abraham to leave his father's house, he
Hmm.
told him to leave his kinmen, but
Hmm.
he took Lot with him.
Hmm.
And even though he had the promise, he still took Lot with him.
Hmm.
And even in the process, it was, and you know, the revelation that the Lord gave me last week in how we take Lot with us. When the
Hmm.
Lord tell us to leave a place, we take a lot of pain. We take a lot
Hmm.
of anger. We take a lot of disappointment. We take a lot of memories. And it
Hmm.
wasn't until he separated from Lot that he was able to now step into the process of what God was calling him to do. See,
Hmm.
if we don't allow ourselves to separate from Lot, and I don't know what your lot is, but many of us have a lot that we carry with us. We have been called from one thing to another, one level to another, one
Hmm.
title to another, but yet we carry a lot of emotional pain. We're still carrying childhood traumas. We're still carrying rejection and depression and anger and
Hmm.
animosity and envy and bitterness. We carry a lot with us. But if we don't allow ourselves to separate, there has to be a time that we have to sit down and say, listen, Lot, you've
Yeah.
come with me far enough.
Hmm.
I don't have enough room. This place is not big enough for the both of us.
Hmm.
Now, I need you to look to the left and to the right. And
Hmm.
if you go to the left, I will go to the right. And if you go to the right, then I will go to the left, because there has to
Hmm.
be a separation, because I was not fully walking in my obedience. I was moving, and Abraham was moving in delayed obedience. Why? Because he took Lot with him. And many of us find ourselves delayed in our obedience because we are taking Lot with us.
Hmm.
What I'm going to lose a lot of stuff. I'm going to
Hmm.
lose a lot of friends. I'm going to lose a lot of this, that, and the other. God, I
Hmm.
can't move right now. I can't do what you told me to do because I don't want to let go of Lot.
That's it. That's it.
But when we understand the moment that Abraham let go of Lot and separated from Lot, and even though Lot decided to go one place because it looked good and he found himself in a very bad place, it was in that separation that Abraham was able to now step fully and more into what the Lord said. He was able to now
That's
speak to
it.
the angels. He was able to, where God said, let me talk to Abraham. And I
Yeah.
need to let Abraham know what I'm about to do because he's my friend.
That's it.
But I can't really talk to you, Abraham, when you have Lot with you, because you're not going to really pay attention to me. You're going to
That's
be
it.
focused on what Lot is doing and the
Hmm.
distraction that Lot is causing. Because I could only imagine when he come out and see all the backbiting and all the arguing that was going on because Lot was with them. We have to let go of Lot in this season. Whatever that lot is, because it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Your lot may not be memories. It may not be the spirit of rejection. It may not be childhood trauma. Your lot may be, I have a lot of stuff that I could lose. I have a lot of friends that will walk away. I have a lot, God, that I don't want to let go of my lot. But
Hmm.
when we decide, Pastor Brandon,
Hmm.
there has to be a separation. And it has to be because of the obedience of what God called me. Then he was able to now talk to Abraham and
Yes.
let Abraham know this is what I'm about to do
Hmm.
because of what's going on in Sodom and Gomorrah. And even though Abraham tried to save the city, it was Lot. He
Hmm.
was fighting because Lot was over there. We
Hmm.
have to get into a place in this season. And if you hear nothing else that we say today, it's time to let go of your lot so that you won't have delayed obedience, that you can move in what God is calling you to do, because a lot of distractions will keep you stuck. A lot of emotional trauma will keep you stuck. A lot of I need to prove myself to people will keep
Mm.
you stuck. It's time to let go of lot so that we can move into what God is calling us and birth out the promise that has been spoken over our lives.
Yeah. So, because you have to ask yourself this question: why am I doing this?
Why?
Am I doing this because I want to get attention, or am I doing it because I'm doing it intentional with God?
Mm,
And when you keep
that's
that in the
good.
forefront of your mind, it keeps you from making a lot of crazy choices off
Mm-hmm,
emotions. The one thing I've learned is there's a quote that I read recently that says that if you don't stay prayed up, you'll be led by your emotions.
mm-hmm,
If
that's
you
true.
don't stay focused on what you're supposed to, you'll be led by your emotions. I don't understand why I sometimes wish that God made us without emotions.
Well,
Because let me tell you, because the things that we make decisions on out of emotions that change every time the wind blows,
mm-hmm,
it's a shame. If we can learn to control our emotions, we can
mm-hmm,
better control our path of which we're supposed to do. It'll
mm-hmm,
be a lot easier for us, but we get so caught up in our emotions and miss a mark that would eventually change the trajectory of where we're supposed to be. A lot
right,
of us supposed to have been a lot further than what we are, but
mm-hmm,
because we got in our emotions,
making
had
bad
a
decisions.
one night stand with an emotional encounter,
Mm-hmm,
now it has jacked us up. And it takes God to get us to a place where we're like, okay, yes, I did it myself. I'm just gonna deal with it. God, you help me through this.
mm-hmm,
And we
mm-hmm,
have to learn that in the separation, it's not always about how things are going to work out in your favor.
mm-hmm,
It's all about how God is going to get the glory out of it.
mm-hmm,
Because if God get the glory out of it, you're going to be well taken care of. Because it's not about what we do, it's about how God works through us. And when
mm-hmm,
we understand that the separation is not always to kill us in the
mm-hmm,
natural sense, it's to kill us in the things that we need died in us anyway. As you said, emotional trauma, childhood trauma. We shouldn't be in our 50s and 60s and 30s and 90s and 80s still holding on to stuff that happened to us as a child. You
right,
wasted all this time, these many years,
mm-hmm,
holding on to something that you should have let go and asked God to help you to deal with and let go of.
mm-hmm,
Now you've missed out on opportunities. You got these trust issues. You don't want anybody to get close to you. You're having these relationships falling out. You've been triggered by every. Why would you put yourself through that insanity? Why?
right, right.
Why?
And you know, Pastor Brandon, many of us need to be like the blind man that
Hmm.
Jesus healed. The one that the Sadducees and the Pharisees came up to and said, well, who healed this man? Are you sure that this man was blind? He called the parents, and the parents was like, well, we don't know who healed him. Talk to
Hmm.
him. He's old enough to answer the question. And he said, all I know is I once was blind, but now
Hmm.
I see.
Hmm.
See, we have to stand on all I know
Hmm.
is the one who touched me and healed my emotions. When I once I was blind, but now I see.
Hmm.
Once I was heartbroken, but now I'm healed. Once I was bleeding to death, but now I'm whole. See, all I know, and if you know that you know that you know, you're going to be able to now stand in the separation. Listen, I don't know why it's happening, but all I know that if God has called me to this separation, then my next level is going to be greater. The next people that he have at the crossroad of this thing called life is going to be able to direct me to a higher place. See, I know that when I was in this place, he moved me from this place to that
Hmm.
place, and he healed my heart at that place. Then he moved me from this place to this place, and he made me whole. He healed my mind. He corrected my emotions. All
Hmm.
I know is every time that I follow him, I get to a greater place in him. See, many of us don't know that we know. So we
Yeah.
can't tell someone, all I know is I once was broke. All I
Mm-hmm.
know is I was once suicidal and now
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking with my right mind. All
Mm-hmm.
I know is my heart was broken, but now I'm standing before you healed. See, when we understand who God is and understand whose we are, then we'll be able to say, all I know. Just like
All
the
I know.
chiropractor told me, the no's know. The
Mm-hmm.
no's don't lie. So
Yeah.
if I know that God is a healer, if I know that God is a keeper, if I know that God will make a way where there seemed to be no way, if I know that God is my bridge over troubled waters, if I
Yeah.
know that he's my strong tower that I can run in and be safe, if I know that the word says that I am the head and not the tail, if I
Mm-hmm.
know that I'm blessed in the city and I'm blessed in the field, see, when I know that I know that I know, then I can walk knowing, God, you have yet to fail me. You have yet to make me in a place where I'm questioning when you're going to show up, how you're going to show up, because you showed up so many times.
So many
Even if
times.
it's just waking me up in the morning and having me be in my right mind and able to have function of my limbs to give me a voice that I can now say hallelujah. If all that I know is I once was this,
That's it. That's it.
but now I'm here.
That's it.
And when we look back over our life, that's what causes the praise break. That's what causes the thankfulness. That's what causes the grateful heart. When I look back over my life, and I realized that I should have been in somebody's psych ward. When I look back
Come
over
on.
my life and I realized that I should have been in somebody in the grave, when I look back over my life and look at that I should have had an STD that I could not be healed from, when I
Mm-hmm.
look back over my life and I
Mm-hmm.
see how God has watched over me and protected me, and when he tell me to do something, why would he do all of this for me then and then
That's
get
it.
me to here and walk away from me? Why would he heal my body and deliver me then to
That's
get
it.
me here to say, you're not going to make it because I've stepped away from you? See, we have to have a mindset that if you did it for me over there, when
Talk.
I didn't even know your name. See, I remember when walking through Somalia and he called my name and I didn't even know who Jesus was. I didn't even know how to call on Jesus. Bombs flying, people dying. I didn't even know who he was, but he knew me and he understood that I had to call your name then. So that when I call your name now, you know how to step higher. You know how to hearken into my voice. See, when we understand what he did for us before, he's not going to stop doing it because we are now a pastor and a prophet and
That's
a
it.
evangelist and a preacher and a deacon. Listen, if he did it for us then when we was a babe, when we didn't even know our name, he protected us. Because if you look back over the childhood things that you did, the riding the bicycle, the 20 people on the bicycle, when we realize what God has done for us then, he's going to do it for us now. He's not going
Mm-hmm.
to walk away from us. So we need to stop being afraid of what we're going to lose and start thinking about what we're going to gain. See, when I went to my therapist this week, I told her, I said, I feel like I'm in a season where I am stuck. I'm not doing as much as I need to do. I'm not moving the way that I was moving. And my therapist kind of wiggled in her chair a little bit and she sat back and she put her hands on her chin and she said, well, is it possible, LaTorsha, that you are not stuck, you're being still? She said, because I hear everything that you said you're doing. So you are pouring into people, but you are in a place of stillness where you're not doing and you're not putting together programs. You're not speaking with a lot of people with coaching, but yet you're pouring into people. You're leading, you're guiding, you're preparing people for what God is calling them in that next season. So you're not used to being in this still place. You're not used to being in this place where you're not doing a whole bunch of stuff. But if you take a moment, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff. And I kind of sat back for a moment and she said, because of the lives that you are pouring into, because of the people that you are showing up for, you are not used to that. You're used to always
Yeah.
moving for what
Yeah.
God is calling you to
Yeah.
do. He said, so you're not stuck. You're just being still.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to embrace that stillness because it's uncomfortable for you. but yet you are still moving because we are so focused on everything that we're doing, the normal day-to-day stuff. But when I took a moment while she was there writing down what she said, and I thought about all the people's lives that I'm pulling into, the people that I'm showing up for, even for my husband, for my daughter, for my mom, for the church, for my spiritual mom, as I'm showing up, I realized that this stillness is not a place of stagnation. It's a place of strength, because in this stillness, he is pouring so much into me because I'm pouring out to so many people. And this place, now that I've changed my mindset, see, I'm so used to having a lot of issues. I'm so used to waiting for the other shoe to fall. I'm so used to wondering why things are not turned up and turned around and going upside down. But he has put me in a place of stillness. He has put me in a place where I'm not stuck. You may not feel like you're moving, but there's an even flow because the waters that are flowing out of your belly is coming, and it's not a stillness, it's not a stagnation. See, in the stillness, you're still moving because the living waters that's coming out of you, the overflow that's coming from you, and you're pouring into other people. I'm pouring more into you, my daughter. And as I'm pouring into you, I'm pouring out. And so I looked at my therapist and I said, my Lord. Now, I didn't think about all that sitting on the table. Let me just say that, because I was sitting on the couch because I didn't have that much time. But when I was sitting in the car, I had to sit back and think about it, that I have to change my mindset. I'm so used to being stuck that I didn't understand that I was being still. And see, you have to understand that there is times in our lives that God is not going to have us ripping and running and doing a whole bunch of things, but yet you're still in the place of movement. So, Pastor Brandon, and it's so important that we understand that in that stillness, there's still an even flow. Come on, Pastor Brandon.
You said so much.
I know. Listen, that stillness and that stuck.
And I'm gonna piggyback on that thing right there. If you think about it, when you're in a place
Mm-hmm.
that you're not separated from, you're stuck. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever somebody gets stuck, they're constantly moving, fighting. They're constantly trying to pull themselves out. It's a constant chaos
Mm-hmm.
happening. But when you become separated, and this is going to help you even more, you get to a place of stillness. Why? Because you're free and God is carrying you. So
Mm.
you no longer feel the chaos because I will mount you up
My God, come on. Come on.
as wings of eagles.
Come on.
Because God would take you from a place where you're stuck, that when you reached out and said, Daddy, take me, He picked you up.
Mm-hmm.
So now all thing you're doing, you're carrying yourself. It feels like a stillness. You're still because you're not moving, He's moving, but you're standing
Mm-hmm.
still in Him. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you learn to separate through obedience, God will take you from that stuck place where you always got to fight, you always got to move, you
My
always got to try to get ahead, to a place of stillness.
God. Mm.
When he was talking to the prophet in the cave, the man of God kept saying, "Well, I want to hear you." The wind came, thunder rolled. God wasn't in it, but the Bible says He came in the stillness of a
Mm.
voice. Sometimes we're so used to chaos in our lives
Yes.
that when the chaos is gone, we start making chaos because that's what we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
We put ourselves back in stuck positions because we feel like that's what we're used to. We don't know how to appreciate when we're free and when we're in a place of stillness. And
Mm.
that's what a lot of us do. Even those that are preachers, we're so used to always have to, we got to do this, we got to do this and do this, that when we get to a place and we're like, wait, what's happening? And God's like, I took you to the place where you need to be. You're
Mm-hmm.
at a place that the turbulence have lifted and you're floating above it. So I admonish all of us to learn to be okay with the separation, obey God, so you can stop being in that place of turbulence. that he can get you above the storm and that you can just float where he needs you to go.
You know, as you was talking, Pastor Brandon, the Lord showed me a vision of a car.
Hmm.
And when you are in a car and you have it in neutral
Hmm.
and you are still trying to press the gas,
Hmm.
you're not really going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And even if you have it in park and you press the gas, the tires are going to spin. But guess what? There's a smoke screen
Hmm.
that starts to come up. And many of us are in that smoke screen because we haven't allowed ourselves to take the foot off the paddle and allow ourselves to just be still and know
Hmm.
that He's God. And in that smoke screen, now we can't see the way forward. We
That's
can't
it.
understand what's going on because we are allowing the movement to be um, without obedience.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
moving without obedience. And it's so important that the separation has to happen. If
Hmm.
every year in the car was all together, could you imagine the chaos?
Yeah.
That if
Yeah.
you're parked, you're driving, and if you're in neutral, you're in reverse. Could you imagine the chaos that
Hmm.
happens
Yeah.
if it's not separated? And that's what happened with us when we're not allowing ourselves to be separated. There
Hmm.
comes a period of chaos of where am I trying to go? See, when we understand God, you told me to leave that place. You
Hmm.
told me to leave those people. But God, I'm going to get into procrastination, not procrastination. I'm going to procrastinate. God, I'm going to keep coming to you in prayer and asking you to give me a word when you've already given me the word and you've already told me what to do. But I'm going to procrastinate because
Hmm.
I want people to know, well, I'm praying about it. And he said, well, but I've already given you the answer. I've already told you what are you supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it. But
Yep.
you still want to look religious and you're going in and you're procrastinating about the thing that the Lord told you to do. He told you to walk away from those people. He told you to leave your father's house. He told you to get away from your kinsmen. He told you exactly what to do, but you're looking at Lot. I have a lot of friends in that place. I have a lot of I have a lot of money tied up in this company. I have a lot of things going on with this person and that person. God, I
Hmm.
don't want to leave Lot behind
Hmm.
because of the situation. But we have to get into this place when we're talking about separation. Separation is never easy,
It's never easy.
but it is
Never.
so beneficial to your growth. And so, Pastor Brandon, as we're about to close, is there anything that you want to say to those watching or those who will watch the replay?
Just learn to appreciate the peace.
Hmm.
When you're praying for peace and God is showing you that you got to separate from those things to get the peace. When you get it, hold on to it. And let me tell you something. Being the superhero, the Superman, it can be addictive, but it can
Mm-hmm.
also be poison. So you got to decide what you want. Do you want to be addicted to poison, or you want to be able to move so you can live in peace and be able to operate in peace? The choice is
You know,
yours.
and the choice is yours. And you know, I'm reminded of Moses and Pharaoh.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the thing is, God used both of them.
Yeah. Hmm.
He called Moses to go to Pharaoh and tell him,
Hmm.
let my people go.
Hmm.
But he also hardened Pharaoh's heart. So Pharaoh wouldn't be able to let his people go.
Hmm.
Why? Because there has to be a demonstration of who I am. So I would say to you all that you should look towards Goshen. Make sure you find yourself on the side of Moses versus
Hmm.
being used by God to be able so he can show his power. See,
That's it.
in this season, in the separation, we have to understand that if he's calling us to a separation, we have to move in that separation because we don't know if he's going to bring down fire and brimstone like he did in Sodom and Gomorrah. He allowed Lot to get out, but he said in the Bible, don't be like Lot's wife. In
Hmm.
other words, don't keep looking back at where
Yeah.
I'm telling you to go away from. Don't
Yeah.
stop and look back to see the destruction that I'm causing on those that don't even have enough sense to know that they put their mouths on you, that they talked about you, that they did you wrong, that they did stuff to you. Don't stop. Don't be like Lot's wife and look back, because when he tell you to separate and he's moving you into a next level and a next dimension of who you are, do not look back at the destruction, because even though they was used like Pharaoh, see, you may be the Moses in this scenario, and the ones who have caused you pain, who's done you wrong, may be used as Pharaoh, because God needs to show you who he is in this season. Don't look back at the destruction that's about to hit them. Just keep moving and go to the mountain that he has pointed for you to go to, because there has to be that separation for a reason. You don't want to get stuck in a place where the fire and brimstone is now falling because you did not leave and separate when he told you to separate. So I just want you all to know that God is doing amazing things in this season. This is the season of what? This is the month of what, Pastor Brandon?
Supernatural. Yes, sir.
Come on, supernatural. So God
Miracles,
is
signs, and
doing
wonders.
things supernaturally in our lives.
Yes.
And if we just take a moment to get out of the place of woe is me and look at what he's doing in your life, the people he's connecting you to, the things that he's turning around, the chaos that he's causing to become peace. When we stop long enough to be still and know that he's God, there's such an amazing thing that happens. And so I love each and every one of you. I tell you every week, if you need me, I am here. We're only a DM away. And when you know better, you what?
You can do better.
You can do better. So you all have an amazing night. I will see you all next week for the next series, the next part of separation. So I love you all. Have a good night. Bye-bye.